So I came across this article that I think would be beneficial to everyone, especially women. It was about a lady. She was in a 20-year marriage, she was in a 20-year relationship. She wasn't married for personal reason. She had a 10-year-old son and they bought a home together. Her credit score was higher, so her credit score was used to get the mortgage. However, her name was not on the deed. She was unfamiliar with home buying, so which is why she didn't push for her name to be on the deed, which is why she was clueless as far as the consequence of being on the deed, not being on the deed. However, during, I guess, further research and grasping the situation more, she realized that she wanted her name on the deed. She then went to her partner that she's been in a relationship for 20 years, and that's what you call a common law wife. However, he made several excuses and reasons why her name cannot be on the deed, expense, whatever, yada, yada, yada. They bought a second home together. Her name was put on that deed. Ladies, let this be a lesson to everyone. Number one, it is vitally important whenever you're choosing a partner to make sure that you actually choose the right partner. You want to choose someone that you know will treat you equally in relationship and that will have your back. By him not even acknowledging her on the deed, or even think to make them equally to put on the deed, is a direct correlation of how he devalued her in the relationship. It is also a direct correlation of how he valued her in a relationship. If you're in a relationship, especially a relationship with 20 years, your partner should, whenever you purchase anything, it should be equal partnership. You should be on that deed. She's in a relationship 20 years, however, they're not married. I think we have to realize that, number one, common law marriage is not recognized the same as a marriage, which is vitally important whenever you're choosing someone to make sure that you choose the right partner. I'm going to give this analogy. It may only make sense to me, but I'm still going to give it. Ladies, whenever you're choosing a partner, don't just rush to the first thing that you see or the first thing that you think. Perception. We choose based on what we think they will be. Choose your partner based on what you see in front of you right now and what you're hoping them to be. Because at the end of the day, people rarely change their ways. What you see normally is what you get. And sometimes it even gets worse. So don't choose partner because, you see potential. It's especially when you're at a certain age. Don't just look at the future of potential. Look at what you see right now. Because whenever you're dating someone, let's say 40s, 30s, 50s, they're pretty much set in what they are. You're not going to change them, pretty much. And I'm going to give this analogy, like I said, picture an apple tree. There's one perfect, not perfect, but almost perfect apple at the top. And then you have all these apples at the bottom. And then you're the perfect apple at the top. And then all these men pass by and they see the perfect apple. But guess what? They reach for the one at the bottom because it is so much easier to reach and less complicated than to reach for the one at the top. And that's how you actually have to value yourself. Put yourself at the very top. So if they didn't pick you, do not feel bad or do not feel that you're less than because they didn't pick you. It means that they weren't the right one for you. It means that they were too lazy to reach your height. That's how you should choose a relationship. That's number one. Don't just choose because of what Mary have or Tom have or whoever have. Choose based on what you're looking for and your criteria. And it's always good to always have a criteria of what you're looking for in a man. And most of the time you need to stick with that criteria. I mean, granted your criteria is within limits. Whenever you're choosing a partner, you cannot choose hoping that a man is going to like you by you pretending to be someone else or advertising to be someone else. And you have to make sure that someone likes you genuinely for you. And when someone genuinely likes you for you, then guess what? There will not be any doubt of how the person is going to treat you. There will not be any doubt in their action. There will not be any doubt in their ways. They will treat you according to the love that they feel for you. That love will be expressed. If someone is not expressing the love that they're saying, that is not love. This is a channel that is of no judgment, so we're not going to judge. People get married, not get married for various reasons. She didn't get married because of personal reason. We're not going to judge, whatever the reason is. But however, before you decide to enter into a relationship, you have to weigh the consequence of common law wife versus being actually married. There's great disadvantage, and I'm not forcing anyone to get married. If you don't want to get married, it's not you. Just weigh your option and know the benefits. There's a disadvantage in common law marriage versus you being married. And I'll list some of the disadvantage. The first disadvantage in being a common law wife is, number one, common law wife is not recognized in every state. She just happened to be a state that it unfortunately was not recognized. Now, clearly, a husband tipped the scale in his favor by using her credit score, but not having her on the deed to the house. If the relationship, God forbid, the relationship should end, she doesn't really have much ties to the home, because guess what? It is bound and it is contracted in his name. So therefore, she could go to court, she could fight, she may or may not get something. And that's one of the disadvantages of being a common law wife versus being in a marriage. If you're in a marriage, then it will be, most state, not every state, it will be 50-50. But being a common law wife, he probably knew that. He did his research, and clearly she did not. He actually tipped the scale in his favor, which is why the deed is only on his name and his name only. Whenever you enter a relationship, you have to decide, is either you're committed to the relationship or you're not committed to the relationship. If you're committed to the relationship, the fact that her name is not on the deed would have never been, because when you're committed, you see yourself with your partner until death, literally until death, until one of you die, which means he would not, I'm not even sure why, if being in a relationship with her for 20 years and having a 10-year-old son, that he would never even think to put her on the deed. That absolutely makes no sense. And again, you have to pay attention to what they call red flags in relationship, and hers, I'm not sure what is considered, because it's 20 years that she's been in that relationship. But pay attention to signs whether someone cares about you or not care about you, because had that person care about her, he would have never left her off the deed, considering that she have a 10-year-old son. If it doesn't go to her, then it will go to the son. But he literally tipped the scale in his favor by putting his name and his name only on the deed. So in future, God forbid something should happen to him, I'm not sure if she could fight or get that home when family members are involved. You do not have the right to survivor benefits to inherit unless provided for in the estate, which means if her partner died, whatever benefit that a married couple could have gotten, she possibly would have to fight hard to probably get a fraction, if any, of that benefit. So that's the difference between being a common law wife versus a wife. You do not have the right to any benefits unless it's provided for in the estate. And even then, that living survivor family or whoever could also fight to have her left out of it, even though she's been in a relationship for 20 years. Whenever you're in a common law relationship, like this lady was, you have very little, if any, right to medical benefit, to medical decision. For example, let's say her partner, God forbid, passed early. She does not have the right to any where he's going to be buried, how he's going to be buried, or God forbid he's in the hospital where he's on life support. She want him alive for another year or whatever, and the family doesn't. The family have all the benefits. And if you're in a relationship, especially when you don't agree with your in-laws, do you really want to fight with your in-laws? Do you really want that unnecessary argument with the in-law to figure out the person that you're in a relationship for 20 years or 10 years plus or 20 years plus, 30 years plus? Do you really want to fight with an in-law or his relatives about medical decision when you're the one that's been in that relationship, taking care of this person, know this person more inside out, well-being more than the family member that are outside? So that's another great disadvantage in being a common law wife. We're not going to judge. Like I said, this is a judgment-free channel. She said she is not married for personal reasons, so we're going to accept that and respect that. However, whenever you're in a, God forbid, if you should end up in a relationship where you don't want to get married, make sure you weigh your option and make sure, don't just close your eyes and be in a relationship. Make sure you have stuff signed and written as far as agreements where both of you agree on and signed. And even then, it can be tricky. Well, I would not recommend anyone being in a or live with someone unless you're married, if that's what you want. That's number one, because again, it gets very tricky whenever you're in a relationship where you're not married and God forbid something happens. If everything goes smooth sailing, which life never is, it's perfectly fine. If all the roads leads to everlasting happiness and smoothness and nothing happened, then it will smile. But when you start having obstacles, that's when you realize the obstacles that you will face in a relationship that you're a common law wife. Because unfortunately, in most states, like I said, do not, which I'm not sure what, I guess to each his own, does not recognize common law marriage, which is quite unfair because, again, this lady has been in a 20-year relationship. She's been in a relationship more than most people that are married, yet she will not be treated the same as a married couple, which is something I think the law needs to be changed. If you're in a relationship for more than 5-10 years and you're in a solid living together, then it should be considered the same benefits as a married couple. Now, custody also gets very tricky whenever you're in a common law marriage versus a marriage. Whenever, God forbid, you should break up or you're no longer together, even when you're married, it's never smooth sailing whenever you're married when it comes to child custody, but even so for unmarried couple than married couple. You know, there's certain things whenever you're unmarried and a common law wife, there's such more higher standards that you have to do, that you have to have in order for the child to, let's say, share 50-50 or you get 60-80%. So many more higher standards than it is for a married couple, which is completely unfair, but unfortunately, that's the world we live in. Relationship is much more tricky and difficult than ending a marriage. And a lot of people think that, oh yeah, it's a common law marriage, you'll just walk away, smooth sailing. No, it's never like that because, again, the law, most state and most law does not recognize common law marriage. So it's going to be up to both person to be mature and actually be fair and reasonable in the relationship and have agreement, not just have agreement, make sure it is a binding, make sure it is signed by your attorney. It's going to be kind of like a prenup, unfortunately. You know, it's sad that we go into marriage thinking prenup, and a lot of people thinking that prenup is bad, prenup is good, and to each his own for prenup. But, you know, it's unfortunately when you go into a relationship, you may think you know your partner, but at the end of the day, you know, do we truly know each other? We actually don't, but we go in for with hope, right? So again, whenever you're in a common law marriage, you need to weigh your benefits as far as if you're going into a common law, especially with this lady, she went into the relationship of 20 years and she's already invested, right? She was working, her job wasn't paying enough, so therefore she's staying at home with the child, which means she has zero income coming in. She's 100% reliant on her partner. However, being 100% reliant on her partner find ways to not treat her equally in the relationship, which is unfortunate, and it's sad because, again, you have a 10-year-old child, you see that the person is working, you're thinking that you'll be fair, but, you know, most men just aren't fair. And that's another thing. Whenever you have someone that you know cares about you, you don't need to tell them to do X, Y, Z. You don't need to say, this is fair, that is fair. They should already know because, again, you're in a relationship with adults. You're not in a relationship with kids. So a partner that have your back, that will see you as equal, will be fair and will treat you accordingly. So whenever you're in a committed relationship versus marriage, it's perfectly fine if you don't want to get married, but at the end of the day, you need to weigh your option. You need to find out the laws that is in your state or your country, and then that's where you need to go from there. And you could do research and find anything, you know, so it's never an excuse. I always find it quite funny when I see people that are married to millionaires and all of a sudden they get kicked out and they're broke. Like, what were you doing in that relationship for all these years? Were you not being active in your well-being or your future? Never be 100% reliant upon anyone but yourself. Do your research, write the pros and the cons, and you need to weigh whichever one that will be in your favor and act accordingly. I hope this helps every single woman out there to just do your research, do your homework, never go into a relationship blindsided. Until next time, I'll see you. Bye. If women should earn minimum wage for the work that they have done at home, relative and or take care of a relative, they would have contributed $1.5 trillion to the economy and 10.9 trillion globally. And that's what I think a lot of men or people don't recognize, the labor that women do at home, which is why as women we literally have to be smart about our future and our well-being. Again, marriage is not for everyone, and certainly no one is demanding that you be in a marriage. However, it is extremely important to weigh your option before shooting marriage down completely. Legally, it is much more easier, excuse me, my earring, easier to be in a marriage than it is to be in a committed relationship that is of a common law status. So before you enter into a common law status or marriage, it is extremely important to weigh your option. It is vital that you actually sit down with or without your partner, weigh your option for the future. And if those are not being met, then maybe that relationship is not for you. And don't assume that, you love the person and you'll never find anyone as great. Men are not short. There's men out there. You will find someone, and you'll find someone that loves you. I will give an example. 2 days ago, I was actually in a flight, and it was a couple. I think they were probably in their 40s, maybe early 40s. And the lady is paralyzed, and it might be from a stroke because it doesn't look like it's something that she was born with. She was speech impaired, and she literally could not walk. And I was like so touched. I was extremely touched by how that husband treated his wife. They were supposed to wait. They have the aisle. Whenever someone can't walk, they have those tiny little chairs on the aircraft that they're called aisle chairs. So they'll bring those aisle chairs up to get someone with two-person assisting, put the person that need assistance in the chair, strap them together, push them through the aisle. When they get to the door, there's a reasonable size wheelchair waiting for them that could not fit through the aisle. The husband did not wait for the aisle chair to show up. He actually lift her up, bring her to the door where the wheelchair was waiting, and put her there. And not only did he put her in, but he actually tucked her in, make sure that she was strapped in properly. And then he was carrying her hat, her purse. I was extremely touched at how affectionate, how attentive that husband was to his wife. Now, you look at that husband versus the article that I just read of that husband. Do you really think a husband that left you off the deed, if something should ever happen to you, if something, God forbid, something should happen to you, as in this lady that was paralyzed, speech impaired, do you think that husband will be around for you? If you're being left off the deed, God forbid, something happened to you where you're paralyzed, do you really think that husband is going to be around for you? And that's what a lot of women, we don't look at our future. Anything could happen tomorrow. Like, life is not promised. Nothing is promised to us. I don't know what could possibly happen to me the next time I step out my door. You know what I mean? So when you're with a partner, make sure that it's for love. Make sure that it's for genuine love, because you want someone that is going to literally stick around for you through thick and thin, and if something should happen to you. At no point should you go into a relationship and have doubt about the relationship, have doubt if the person care. If you have doubt that the person care, the person probably do not care. So again, use the story that I've just said about the husband. And again, I will remember this story for the rest of my life, because there's some things that is stuck in your head, because sometimes it's just the little things in life that you recognize. It's just the little things that people do that you recognize. The way I wish I could have taped them to like share this incident with you. The way that husband was to his wife, a wife that was paralyzed, speech impaired, and I'm pretty sure he didn't marry her like that, because his situation looked like she had a stroke or something to that nature, but he was so attentive. He did not just allow them to put her in the chair. He put her in the chair. He tucked her in. And as they were wheeling her off, he was right behind with the bags and was just looking at her to make sure that everything. I was extremely touched. So ladies, don't ever shortchange yourself. There are men out there. Whoever spread the rumor that men are short is probably a man that is desperate and can't get anyone. I guarantee you, men are not short. Are good ones harder to come by? Yes, possible. Just like the story that I just shared with you about the apple. You know what I mean? If someone grabbed the bottom one, they're taking the easy way out. So wait for the person that will grab you from the very top. Do not shortchange yourself and just choose anything. Do not choose men based on what you foresee them to be. Do not choose men based on what you want them to be. Choose men based on how they are, how they act, and what you're seeing in front of you. The love that a man should have for you should be the same love that you have for your kids, and vice versa. You can't expect to want this from a man, because everything is action, reaction. You know what I mean? So you can't expect you cannot expect to want from a man. You can't expect a man to give, and you're not giving something back in return. So the same love that you want from a man, you need to return back that favor as well. Like you need to. Everything is on a return benefits, right? You go to work, you get paid. Your apartment, you pay your mortgage, you get to live in it. So everything is on a reciprocating relationship, right? So again, do not go into a relationship if it doesn't feel right. Do not go into a relationship based on what you perceive them to be, or based on what you think they can be, or based on what you would think. Because a lot of us go into a relationship thinking that, oh yeah, he doesn't do this for me, but maybe don't keep finding excuse for men. If you have to find an excuse for a man, he's not the person. For example, if you're in a relationship and a man don't see the simple things to do for you without you asking, you kind of have to wonder long term, is he going to be there for you, right? So I hope this video helps. That ladies, you need to make wiser decisions, you need to make smarter decisions, and you also need to educate yourself. It's almost like you have to go in I don't want to say a fighting battle, but you kind of have to look to the future and look ahead as far as your mental well-being is concerned and the type of relationship that you choose. Because again, your home environment has a lot to do with your mental health, and you spend majority of your time either at work or at home. So make sure that your home environment is something that you're not stressed over, that you're not worried about. And even if you have kids, don't think that you're staying in a relationship for a man because of the kids, because at the end of the day, it's better to have two happy parents separated than to have two parents together in a home that are unhappy. Kids picked up on everything, you know what I mean? Like they have a study years ago not years ago, maybe a year ago, that I watched about animals, and animals react and copy their master behavior, right? If you're serious and you're irritated all the time, that's kind of how your animal will react. And vice versa, your kids, you know what I mean? So if you have kids, it's better for them to be in a happy environment than to be in an environment where you're not satisfied. So again, choose your partner wisely, and that it is extremely important to choose your partner before you invest, right? Because a lot of us, we invest in relationship, and as women, we invest more than what we get back. Our return is a fraction of what we invest in, and it's hard to be in a relationship where you said, oh, I'm not going to invest. You will invest, because as women, we react and we have emotion, and we quickly get tied up with our feelings, right? And so we start doing this for men, and women and men, make no mistake, are built differently, right? So again, be very careful of the choices that you make. And again, don't ever think that men are short. They're not short. So wait, if it takes forever, wait for the right person that will treat you the way you want to be treated. And picture yourself as the prize, because you are the prize. So picture yourself as the apple on top, and if someone passed by and they picked the bottom one because they were too lazy to reach you, they're never for you. They weren't for you. Wait for the right one will come. So again, my love, I hope this video helps, and I hope as women that we make better choices, especially when it comes to love life and the men that we choose to be in our life. Because make no mistakes, men are a great part of your mental well-being. I will see you in my next video. Take care.